Gentleman from Arlington, Mr. Hope.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise for a point of personal privilege.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I didn't plan to get up today, but the gentleman, my good friend from Henrico, mentioned my name, and I felt that it was important that I got up to respond. You know, for the last 2 weeks, I've been sitting here with my colleagues, and when one of us talks about a criticism or a concern that we have with the budget, suddenly the gentleman from Colonial Heights gets up to the queue and gets up and tells people why we should vote for this, why we didn't have any other choice given the tough circumstances of the budget, that we didn't have any other choice but to cut education, to fire teachers, to impede access to health care, that this was the only choice that we're left with. I heard during the debate that we had last week, the gentleman from Fairfax said, "Show me the money." Another gentleman from Fairfax said, "Step up." And I guess people didn't hear what I talked about on that morning. I also rose for a point of privilege then. And I talked about $300 million that we are foregoing in Medicaid matching funds, that we are taking those $360 million, Mr. Speaker, and putting it towards programs from Medicaid other than towards Medicaid program. We're putting it mostly in educational programs, which I don't disagree are important issues. But by doing that, we leave over $300 million on the table. And I think that that is being somewhat disingenuous to our voters to say that we had no other choice. Well, we do have a choice. The Senate has given us a choice. I have given us a choice. Talk about other ways. And it surprises me more than anything to hear the gentleman from Henrico, who I have a tremendous amount of respect and admiration for, as a physician, would talk about these kinds of cuts in the healthcare budget being a good one. Now, I disagree, respectfully disagree that in the healthcare area that this is a good budget. And I'll tell you why. The reason why is we're talking about impeding access to Medicaid for people. I'm thinking of people that are poorest of the poor, people with heart disease, people with diabetes, asthma, hypertension. Call their doctor and say, "Doc, I'm thinking of a parent that calls their pediatrician and says, my son's having trouble breathing, and I need to come in. We need to adjust his inhaler, his medication." And the doctor says, "You know, I'm sorry. General Assembly cut my funding for Medicaid. I no longer take Medicaid patients. I can no longer see you." And they can, good luck finding another doctor. Hopefully they will find a doctor. But what's going to happen, Mr. Speaker and ladies and gentlemen of the House, is that they're probably not going to find a doctor, and they're going to wait until the last minute and end up in the emergency room to get their care. People with heart disease trying to manage their disease call their doctor and ask to come and see their physician because they're having chest pains. Say, "I don't no longer see patients Medicaid. You need to go to the ER." And that's where people are going to get their care. And Mr. Speaker, this is going to cost us more money to do it this way. There's going to be elimination of thousands of jobs, good paying jobs, by doing this. Now, again, I sat here and I heard the other side of the aisle keep saying over and over that we had no other choice. I'm not going to go back to my district and tell teachers who are going to go to school in the summer and be told by their principal that they no longer have a job here. I'm not going to tell them that I didn't have another choice. I'm not going to tell the parent when they bring their kids into class and they had originally 20 kids in the class, they now have 30 kids in the class, and the quality of their education is going to be even less. I'm not going to tell that family that we didn't have a choice. I'm not going to tell that family of people that are trying to find a physician to see their kid that with asthma, or to see a patient with diabetes, hypertension. I'm not going to tell that family we didn't have a choice. Sorry, your new doctor is the ER. I'm not going to tell that to that family because I'm going to vote no. I voted no last week, and if it comes back in a similar form, I will vote no again because I can't make excuses for my constituents of why I voted for a budget that does all those things. So, Mr. Speaker, I did not intend on standing up in refuting these, but I think this is a bad budget for health care. We cannot afford to leave $300 million on the table. Mr. Speaker, I think someone else is in the queue, and I will yield back.
Mr. Speaker, I rise for a point of personal privilege.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I heard the gentleman from Enrico, Delegate O'Bannon, whom I respect very much, note that the voters of the Commonwealth elected Governor McDonnell, who pledged not to raise taxes. And that is absolutely true. However, the rest of the story, as they say, Governor McDonnell has said in the press, and to many of us directly, he has said that he would support some fees so that we're not taking the entire revenue side of the state balance sheet off the table. Now, I would say to the gentleman from Scott who pulled up my good friend Delegate Hope's list of bills, he must not have been looking especially closely, because House Bill 842, which was a bill that Governor McDonnell and the McDonnell administration asked him to put in to raise fees, raise health care facilities licensing fees, the gentleman put it in because Governor McDonnell was smart enough to understand that you can't take the revenue side of the balance sheet entirely off the table. What happened to the gentleman's bill? Can anybody guess? Can anybody guess? The gentleman's bill was, and I'm reading right here from the system, left in appropriations. Ladies and gentlemen, look, we need an honest, forthright debate about these issues. It's important that we have that. But let's not play games here. The fact of the matter is, House Republicans take what they consider to be a principled position to not raise taxes and not raise any fees. Governor McDonnell has said that he would support some fees so that we don't take the entire revenue side of the balance sheet off the table. The Senate is sending us a budget that includes some fee increases. What I would urge us to do is, first of all, let's not play games. Let's try and be honest with each other. I think that that's what Delegate Cox was urging us to do yesterday when we were talking about the education funding. Let's try and have a forthright discussion about these important issues. And what I would urge the House budget conferees to get with Governor McDonnell and have a discussion about fees, have a discussion about what you might be able to tolerate on the revenue side of the balance sheet so that we can minimize cuts to education and to health care and to all these other important issues, so that at the end of the day we have a conference budget before us that does the best that we can collectively by the people of this Commonwealth. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.